for joining us tonight. It is Thursday night, April
No,
26th.
it's Wednesday night.
No, it is Wednesday. It's Wednesday night. I don't know why we don't ever know what night it is. It's Wednesday night. Thank you all for joining us. We have we have a great show for you all tonight. I know we say that every night, but this information that we provide to you all is very valuable. Um, and tonight's topic is how to make your long distance relationship count.
Mm.
So, what does that mean?
Yeah.
We're going to dive into details on this topic and provide you information about long distance relationships
Yeah.
and how you can um, use that to move forward in your relationship.
Yeah. Or how you can just make sure that the relationship is progressing as you go through the relationship and it's not staying stagnant because that can be a big challenge within a long distance relationship. So tonight we are actually going to be looking at some of the challenges that come along with when you're in a long distance relationship and how you can actively work to make sure that you are progressing in a healthy way so that you both end up in a spot where you're both happy and satisfied with your relationship. You want to?
Yep. So we're going to go over and talk about some challenges that long distance relationships face, and then also to how to overcome these challenges and progress, like my wife said, in a healthy way, so that this relationship can actually lead up to something that is meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Our first one, of course, is a very known challenge, but it's probably the biggest challenge within a long distance relationship that you will have to face, and that is trust. That is so huge for any relationship to go through, but especially a long distance relationship because it's so many boundaries, so many barriers that are actually occurring when it comes to building a sustainable trust within a relationship that's going to last a long time. So, in particular, trust when you're building it from a long distance standpoint is going to take a lot of time and it's going to take a lot of effort. But it's something that can really be done if you're willing to commit to making it happen and actually going to do the work that it's going to require.
Right. Yeah. You have to be very patient when it comes to long distance relationships. I, for one, I understand how difficult distance relationships may be, and that's the reason why I'm not so much of a champion for long distance relationships. So just understand that. But people do find themselves in these relationships, so you do have to be very, very patient in order to build these type of relationships. And like my wife said, it involves a whole lot of trust and loyalty to go
Mhm.
along with that. So you need to make sure that you all properly communicate,
Mhm.
talk often, a lot, in order to make sure that you all are being loyal to each other,
Mhm.
because you don't always have you're not always in the same space with this partner. You're not sleeping with this person every night, but in at the same token, it can be achieved to get a valuable and meaningful relationship that can turn into a marriage dealing with a long distance relationship.
Yeah. But it's just important to make sure that your expectations aren't going to be the same, like starting off in a relationship where you're actually in a close proximity to each other. If you have a long distance relationship, your level of trust is not going to be the same. It's not going to look the same. And so it's not going to progress in a way that you may recognize. So it's just really important, like my husband said, to take communication actively and all the time and probably over communicate, especially when you're in a long distance relationship. You probably can never stop talking enough to each other. And it's probably going to look like more communication than is going to be needed if you actually are living in close proximity with your spouse. So being able to actively text all the time, share your feelings, share your experiences, what's going on, every moment of the day as often as possible. And in a way, it can seem a bit much if this person isn't somebody that you're actually looking to build something with and interested in. But if this is somebody that you're interested in and looking to build with, then certainly talk to them as often as you can. Video calls, text messages, phone calls, however you can communicate, letters, I don't know. You're going to have to make sure that you're always talking to each other.
Yeah, and then also be mindful that you have to be reliable in this
Mhm.
relationship. So I know we talked about ghosting. So you always have to be readily available when that person calls you and pick up the phone. You have to adjust. So what my wife was talking about before is that it's not the same. She meant the same level of type of relationship as being with someone physically. So you understand that things are a lot different in a long distance relationship, and it involves a whole lot more time, patience, and effort in order to build on that
Mhm.
relationship. So you have to talk often. Talk about your day. Talk about things that you all do on a daily basis. Talk about work. Share your thoughts, your feelings, your your expectations for marriage and relationship.
Yeah. And certainly open communication is going to help with jealousy, because that is another huge challenge that you're going to be facing as you're having a long distance relationship. So, in order to help prevent too much jealousy creeping up, because it's natural, we all have it, it's going to happen. But in order to help ease your mind and be able to, I guess, in a way, prevent too much of those negative thoughts popping in your head, it's important that you guys sit down and set up a plan of things and behaviors that you are going to do with each other, so that you're actively able to build a trust and an intimacy in a way with each other, because of that constant communication that you're going to be having. Another thing is to also make sure that you were about to hit into that, having a plan to move in together. So that means you need to have that conversation. This is one conversation that you just cannot avoid. Don't wait too long to talk about it. After you have really established that, hey, we like each other, these are good, aligned values and principles that we see with each other, then hey, we're ready to actually take the next step and talk about what life could look like if we move closer to each other. Because if we're being completely honest, a relationship needs that close proximity in order to build. It's just how you grow, it's just how you connect with the person. So you are going to have in plan some type of communication that's going to set up, hey, this is what we're working towards, goals that you're kind of having towards your relationship, to make sure that, hey, we're not staying stagnant. We're not always going to be in this long distance type of relationship. We're actually looking to make plans to move in together.
Right, yeah, and then we talk about marriage vision. Talk
Mm-hmm.
about that marriage vision, your roles in your relationship,
Yeah.
who is going to do what as far as being provider in the relationship. Are you all both working? Also
Mm-hmm.
talk about child care. Are you all going to utilize daycare? And then also if
Finances.
finances, talk about finances,
Mm-hmm.
joint accounts, things of that nature.
Yeah.
You really have to involve all of the details, talk
Mm-hmm.
about everything, so that you all are squared away, and there are no surprises when it comes into moving together.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure you talk about all of these things before you actually move in together. How many kids do you all want? Talk about those things. You can talk about
Yeah.
when your marriage date, when you all want to get married.
Yeah.
You need to be clear about your expectations in your relationship, and being the fact that since this is a long distance relationship, like I said before, you don't want any surprises moving in. Get all the way down to the details.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't, for the women, if you haven't moved in, for an example, as far as the details, if you have not moved in with that man yet, one of the questions that you can ask is, do you put the toilet seat down? Just so that you understand.
Yeah. In particular, I would love if we could get into some tips how even you can just jumpstart the conversation, because that's super important that you're able to have this conversation. And that can be a very intimidating thing to do, is to have this conversation on, hey, are we going to move in together? How do I even go about approaching this conversation, especially if you're a woman? Maybe it's a little more intimidating. You're like, hey, I don't really want to seem too pushy, but I want to have this conversation. And if you're in a long distance relationship, you need to have this conversation. So, some simple tips that you can, use to get you started and get things off to a good harmonious pace is to first choose the right time and place, right? So timing is everything. You want to make sure that you both are comfortable, calm, not busy, not stressed out from a busy day, not hungry, not sleepy, just in a good mindset so that you can go into ready to have a conversation with the open mind and being open to having even a conversation in general, because you don't want this to be such a surface level thing where the person's not even interested in, getting deep within this topic, because it's very important. So definitely being mindful of the timing and the place and having a general idea of when will be the best time to do this.
Yep. And so we next talk about your future goals
Mm-hmm.
in the relationship. What do you
Yeah.
see your relationship? Where do you see your relationship in the next 5 years? And
Yes.
I've always
Simple
said this
question to
before.
ask.
Talk about marriage dates,
Mm-hmm.
where you want to live as far as
Mm-hmm.
locations.
Or if you even seeing yourself living together in the future. I think that's just even a simple question, a great question to just ask. Like, hey, do you see yourself living with me? Am I somebody that you can see marrying? Form it in a question so that they know, like, she's talking about the future here. I've never really thought about that. And, if the guy isn't saying that, hey, he did think about that, then, it's definitely good that you are having this conversation. And hopefully he is then sparked with a new idea of, hey, yeah, I can look to having this relationship with you progress.
Mm-hmm. And be honest and open about your feelings. So be
Mm-hmm.
honest and open about your feelings. So tell your spouse why you want to move in with them.
Mm-hmm.
And vice, and then your spouse should also reciprocate that question and answer it accordingly as well.
Yeah.
Because you need to know that the relationship involves more than just casual sex. You need to make sure that the relationship involves more than just money.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to be deep rooted reasons on why you want to be moving in with this person. And hopefully it is with the intention on getting married.
Yeah, and it helps them to get a general idea of why you're bringing this conversation up. Not like, oh, she's just trying to progress this so fast. But if you can honestly just give your opinions, like maybe you don't like driving so much to meet for the commute. Maybe you're tired of that. Maybe you want to save some money. Maybe you're actually really interested in living with this person and seeing like, hey, I want to spend more time with you. Be open and honest with your feelings so that your spouse can then connect with you. Maybe if you're the guy and you're saying, hey, I'm interested in saving money and not having to, do this commute. So maybe I can find a job closer to you, or there's new job opportunities where you're located. I can look into that. Being open and honest about that, why you're doing what you're doing will help give your spouse a little peek into where your mind is at as well. And then, like my husband said, I just had the thought, definitely make sure you're giving your other spouse the opportunity to express their feelings too. And be open to what that may sound like. Maybe they're not quite ready for, moving in. And, that's okay too. Just being open to having the dialogue of, okay, if you're not ready, what things do you need to see taking place in order for us to, progress to that stage? Or what are your fears? What are your insecurities about moving in together? That is totally normal, especially if you're in a long distance relationship. Maybe you are nervous about, hey, I don't know what it's like living with somebody. I'm, nervous about picking up and on YouTube, Instagram. So that's
Yep.
great. We'll
It
keep it pushing.
happens.
Yep, it happens.
And then also be honest about your expectations, your hopes,
Mm-hmm.
and your fears.
Yep.
So understand that it is important. You have to be upfront so that, like I said before, there are no surprises. You want to make sure that you include things as far as moving in together, as far as doing chores. Like my wife said before, finances and spending time together, so that you all have a clear picture of what that looks like in your
Mhm.
day-to-day relationship.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And that certainly helps clear away any anxieties of you needing to know what your role is. What does your spouse expect you to do moving in? So you're not like, oh, I didn't expect it to be like this. Like, I don't want to do this. It just clears away all that anxiety. And you can know, hey, this is what's expected of me. And this is also what I expect from my spouse. So yeah, it helps build that good foundation of not shaky ground of knowing what's going to happen next. You are solidly building towards something great that you both can agree on.
hmm
What else?
And next, visit each other's homes.
Yes.
So if you haven't already spent time with this person at their home, you might want to see what their living space is currently like before you all move in together.
Mm-hmm.
That gives you the expectation of cleanliness, how organized they are,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can also contribute and find a common ground in between your living styles.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to understand that you know um, your organizational skills may be different than the spouse or the person that you're dating. So you want to make sure that that information and you all talk about how well you all are clean. It's how well you all clean, especially like the bathrooms or the kitchen areas and things like that. Because what I've speaking from experience, women, you all have a lot of beauty products and things, and it covers a lot of real estate over the sink. So that is one thing that I realized when we moved in together, you know. Um, and my wife realized about me that I like things in a particular fashion, especially like the way that I fold my clothes
Mm-hmm.
and things of that nature, and how I have them in my dresser drawer. So you have to get accustomed to your the way that you all clean in your homes.
Yeah, and just the way you live, like your whole ideologies of how you wake up in the morning, how you want, your mornings to start, how you want your evenings to go. Having that first being able to step into the experimental realm of, hey, let's see what this would look like moving in together and see if this is really something that will work, will really help you to see if this could last long term before you go and make that big move into moving in with somebody. So yeah, it's always too nice to, of course, spend that time with the person. So you'll get a feel for the area and if whether or not one or the other spouses you like living in that area more or maybe living in that space more. It's definitely nice to see the options that you all will have if you guys just do decide that, hey, we're going to move in together. The next step after that will be to set a timeline. Do not just say, oh, we're going to move in together and leave it up to God to figure that out. Don't do that. God says work. So actually set in a time where you're going to say, hey, we're going to move in around this time and I'm going to actively do these things in the midst of that time so that we're progressing towards our common goal of moving in together. Because honestly, that should really be the goal if there's not, if we're talking about an extenuating circumstances where the spouse works long distance, then that's a little different, but still you are always trying to find this shared space that you guys come into so that the relationship can actually progress and grow.
And also to find a place to live.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said before, you want to do your research. Both of you come to a consensus on the location where you want to live. Base that off of your needs,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can base it off of some of your wants as well.
Yeah.
And think of places that if you're having children, schools. Also think of cost of living, job opportunities, entertainment.
The community, what's
Yep,
that look like?
the crime rates,
Mm-hmm.
to get more specific.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what I always say as far as where to live, consider the laws as
Mm-hmm.
well, the laws of the land,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of people don't think of it that way. If you like to go hunting, like to go fishing, you need to know the laws of that area if you can do so, especially hunting.
Right.
So that you all can enjoy where you all live at. So
Mm-hmm.
you're not trying to move again.
Yeah.
So I always say that too. You move based move to a location based on the laws and how well you enjoy the environment around you.
Yeah, and enjoy this experience. So go online and read about different locations together. Read the reviews, ask friends, ask family, read Reddit, Facebook posts, whatever you can find that will give you some idea of what it would be like to live in this area, especially if you guys decide that, hey, we're going to move together to a whole new location. I think that's a great venture for long distance relationships to come into, because not only are you kind of getting rid of that, oh, one person having to move to another person's familiar spot, but instead you both are stepping into a new experience together, moving into a whole completely new space together. That within itself will bond you guys and bring you guys closer together. So if that is something that you do choose to do, make sure you're taking the time together to review the place, check out the place together, vacation together, check out the community, and maybe stay there for a little bit, or at times like weeks at a time, so that you can really see like, hey, we like living together and we like living together in this space. We really can see us creating a life together, because that's what all of this is about. You guys want to be able to come together and really be creating a life together, a life that you both are in agreement on and actively working towards progressing.
Right.
Mm.
And then next, also too, if you have to move, and especially if you have to leave your job, make sure that you search for jobs
Yeah.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make a list as far as where you're living at, make pros and cons. If you're finding multiple places to live, you all need to sit down and write down pros and cons of where you all have options as
Yeah.
far as living spaces. And then also to be willing to compromise
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to the pros and cons, because you're not going to get everything that you want out of your living space. You may, if you're lucky enough, but more than likely you all are going to have to come to an agreement about your wants and your needs. So they may not be similar, so you may need to compromise your wants and needs there.
Yeah. But this is actually great practice for a long distance relationship if you're looking to tap into that compromising, that being flexible. Those are skills that you are going to need throughout your marriage the whole time. So if you can already do this in the very early stages, that is a great foundation for you guys to build on. And you are for sure going to be moving in a healthy direction to making this long distance relationship long term.
Right. And also to be positive and enthusiastic
Mm-hmm.
about these new challenges that you all are going through, because coming together, like my wife said, is going to build that bond, especially if you all are working together to actually move in together, being that it's a two-person effort. So that teamwork, like my wife said, is something to build upon as well. So you can also be mindful of that and appreciate that.
Yeah, and be enthusiastic when you're bringing this conversation to your spouse. So if you're the guy or you're the woman and you're bringing this conversation, make sure that you're bringing it in a more positive light and not saying, oh, I'm tired of us not spending time together. We have to, don't bring it from a negative space. Bring it from an excitement about a new journey, a new experience to have on each other. Because when you bring it to your spouse in that way, they are more likely going to look at it in the same way, versus if you bring it to it like, oh, it's a problem and we got to move in together because we're having a problem. So don't bring it that way. Just more so bring it in a, hey, I'm excited about moving in with you. I'm excited about having a new experience with you. So how do you feel about this?
Right. And then plot twists,
Yeah.
red flag. Pay attention to this. If one of you are actively doing all of this work, be mindful of that, because what that may mean is that your spouse or your significant other is not enthusiastic or as excited about moving in with you.
Mhm.
So you may need to ask them about how serious they are about moving in together. And this may, you may discover that you may not need to move in together or continue the relationship, because this person is not seriously dating you with the intention to marry you.
Yeah, that's really what this is all about, making sure that you guys are both on one accord. So if, yeah, one spouse is not actively as excited as you are, not interested in the conversation, not wanting to continue and help you as you figure out where you're going to live or researching ideas, or even just planning time so that you do come and you visit and you stay with each other. If this person isn't doing this, then this might not be a long distance relationship, and it could just be a game or something that they're playing. And you really have to analyze that so you aren't the one that's getting hurt in the long run. Pay attention to those red flags for sure.
Right. Um, and then
Oh yeah, back onto
number
that
two.
was yeah, back onto topic, because we strayed away a little bit talking about the ways that you can bring in this whole conversation of moving in. But in the meantime, if you have not moved in, of course, it's still very important that you work through another major challenge, which is intimacy.
Hmm. Yep. So it can be difficult to feel close to someone that you can't touch, smell, or kiss or cuddle with. And it's very important to build that intimacy, especially when you all are planning to move in together.
Mhm.
In order and understand that intimacy is very important in order to build on the relationship. Because of long distances, you all have probably been feeling feelings of loneliness for a long time, and understand that you all are probably more excited if you all decide to move in together. You're going to be excited about building that intimacy. So look
Mhm.
forward to that.
Yeah, and actively do things that can keep you guys building it in the meantime. So, what does that look like? Well, even though you're not physically together, thank goodness for this technology age that we live in. It's virtual everything. You can video call, do your virtual dates, watch movies together side by side on the computer, different things to where you're actually having these virtual dates and spending that time together, just like you would be if, you were physically there. Maybe cook. One person's cooking, one person is like, maybe cooking the meal at the same time, just at different, locations, same meal. Then you both sit down and taste your meal to see, and laugh about who maybe made it better or who didn't make it good. It's different things that you can do to spice up this long distance relationship and have that intimacy still, even though it's not physical.
Right. Yeah. I mean, because you have to find ways in order to keep the relationship going and interesting.
Mhm.
I would encourage you all to try to get together as often as possible. Like my wife said, plan vacations together.
Mhm.
Um, you can do that outside of actually looking for places to move.
Mhm.
Plan a lot. Plan to see each other a lot and stick to the schedule that you all have made for each other. Understand that these long distance relationships can be very fragile
Yeah.
if someone is not showing up for the relationship. And so, therefore, you do have to plan a lot more than often than a regular relationship where you're seeing someone on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So, understand that the feelings of your spouse as well when they are longing for you. So be understanding about those feelings as well,
Yeah.
and try to accommodate those in the best way that you possibly can.
Yeah, and maybe that's encouraging them to have healthy relationships with those close to them who are also nearby. So, friends, families, being able to still do the things that you love that help make you feel happy and keep the loneliness at bay as much as possible. Because that's just, something that you're going to have to deal with. So, you just want to be able to mitigate that as best as possible. But when it also comes to loneliness, you can do things like another pop thing that popped in my head when you were talking was books, like maybe trying to read different books together and then coming in and checking in with each other, or video games, or just reading and different things that can actually make you check in to see, like, hey, how far are you on this, how far are you on this. It just gives you common activities that you can enjoy doing together. So just really, really look for that as much as possible, and that will help keep that intimacy going.
Right, most definitely. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Oh, go
the
ahead.
gifts. You saw to
Yes.
send each other gifts. Yeah, send each other gifts.
Mhm.
Understand find out what you all like to do as far as
Mhm.
hobbies and gifts. So especially don't miss birthdays, don't miss
Yeah.
key dates, anniversaries, things like that. And make
Yeah.
sure that you're gifting and pay attention to what, like I said, your spouse like, and then make sure you're gifting accordingly
Yeah.
to what they like and what they enjoy.
Yeah, surprise gifts are always nice when you're long distance, especially if you know where your spouse works and you know that, hey, they tell you they're having, a hard day or whatever the case may be. You guys are already checking in. Great, great. Then do something like, hey, send them some flowers, a delivery company nearby. Send them some flowers randomly, even though you're not there and you can't show up for them. You can show up physically in other ways through other avenues. So definitely look for ways that you can allow gifts to show that, hey, I'm here for you and I support you and I care for you and I want to show you that.
Yeah. Um, like edible arrangements.
Mhm.
Those are things that are good too.
Yeah, buy something on Amazon and ship it to the house. I don't know, something that they tell you, I need this, like, or whatever the case may be, just being mindful of things that they say or little ways that you can make your presence known without having to, physically be there. Again, thank goodness for technology. It really makes having long distance relationships a lot easier, but still, with its challenges, of course.
Right. Yep. Because we can't teleport yet. So,
Yeah.
so these long distance relationships can be, like I said before, challenging.
Yep.
Um, it was something I wanted to say too. I forgot what it was. Dealing with, what was it? Dealing with gifting, I believe. But
In the meantime, great until you jog your memory
yeah, I
while you
don't know.
think.
I
Yeah.
can't remember what it was.
In the meantime, another great thing that you can do is to create shared spaces, right? So while you're going and you're creating these memories, y'all are having y'all's dates, take pictures and put them on a shared space where, hey, you can, ours in particular, we use like the Google shared drive, right? So all the collections of memories of pictures of our kids and things that we do throughout the day, sometimes Google will pop up and say, hey, you remember this day? So just and it's cool because we'll both get the notification. So even though, it's a shared space, we're both separately in different locations and we're able to at that same time receive that notification that jogs our memory of something that was a great moment for us. And that is something that a long distance relationship can really take advantage of. If you're able to have those shared spaces of combined pictures, maybe even you just text message and constantly send each other different things of, hey, you remember this, you remember that, just having that thing where you can jog your memory and keep in mind, hey, we love each other, we're here with each other, and we're going to constantly build this intimacy even though we're not near each other. Have pictures hanging up all over your house, keep them on your phone. I don't know, I don't think you can ever get enough of seeing the happiness that you are feeling when you're with this spouse. So definitely making sure to display this all around so that even though they're physically not there, you have a memory of them and you'll still be thinking about that.
Mhm. And then also too, to create intimacy, also text pictures
Mhm.
to your significant other, maybe intimate pictures as well, to always have them thinking of you, and
Mhm.
then especially in intimate ways as well. And I remembered what I was thinking about, but I'm gonna save that until the end
Okay.
because I think it's a good way to close it out.
Yeah.
Just that's something to be mindful of, especially dealing with long distance relationships.
Yeah.
Like my wife said, create that shared space. Pictures are good. Also, two things of memories when you all are together, and trips and dates and things like that.
Mhm.
Make sure you have those around. Keep those around because you do always want to be mindful because lustful situations are always maybe more convenient than actually spending time with this person. But if you're all about this person, you really want to make things work, you really do need to keep this person on your mind because when loneliness creeps in, it is a opportunity to step out on the relationship in which you do not want to do. So just be mindful of that. Be mature. Now, understand that these long distance relationships are not for the immature at heart, people. By
Mm-mm.
all means, it's not. It
No,
takes a lot of
certainly.
restraint. It takes a lot of
Discipline.
discipline, and also too, it takes a lot of takes a large moral compass dealing with the right things to do, and then also to staying away from lustful and temptation
Mhm.
situations, tempting situations.
Yeah.
So as a man and as a grown woman, you need to make sure that you stay away from these situations, because the biggest challenge that you're going to have to deal with is loneliness and lust. So it's always convenient to talk to somebody who's interested in you at the grocery store, but if you're all in on this person and you're having a long distance relationship, you have to be rooted in the commitment of this person and this relationship, and maintain loyalty.
Yep.
The hard thing is that nothing is promised.
Hmm.
You know, if you're just boyfriend and girlfriend starting out, but if you are moving towards an engagement, a long distance engagement, I've heard of people having a long distance marriage
Hmm.
before, and that is something that I'm not interested in. But I've seen people make it work. As far as loyalty, you don't know. You just have to be really at peace with that person, and like my wife said, communicate with that your significant other often.
Hmm.
Video chat, video call every day, every night. Have a set schedule when you speak with this person. Make sure that they pick the phone up.
Yeah.
It really is more difficult being in a long distance relationship, because it requires a whole lot of communication and a whole lot of planning and scheduling.
And yeah, maturity. That was a huge one. I think that you definitely hit on that. I kind of didn't even think to really make sure we talked about, because the level of maturity is much, I think, has to be much greater than actually just getting in a regular relationship. It requires, because of the risk that is involved, like you were saying, and not only the selflessness that's involved, the disciplines of checking in. If you have an issue with providing your spouse common courtesy checks and stuff like that, so that you're able to both ease each other's minds, long distance relationships probably aren't for you. It's a lot of things that a lot of work, a lot of commitment, a lot of effort that has to be put into a long distance relationship. So if this is not something that you're up for, if you're a little sketchy with the regular relationship, then a long distance relationship is certainly not something that you should be wanting to just jump right into. And I strongly, strongly encourage men and women to vet this person that you're considering getting into a long distance relationship. What does that mean? Ask those questions on what's your morals, what's your principles, what's your values, what do you really care about? Oh, how disciplined are you? Like having, and then actually being able to witness this through their actions. Are they really consistent with their actions? Can you believe that they're going to keep to their words, because they're showing this in little things, like when they tell you they're going to call you back, they call you back. Little things like that will give you key details of if this person is mature enough to have this relationship with you. If you're struggling to get the person to call you back or text you back in an adequate amount of time, don't even bother putting yourself through a long distance relationship, because that's really just gonna put
Stress you
yourself,
out.
yeah, in a lot of stress and heartache. And don't sign yourself up for that. You got to be mindful and protect yourself. Don't risk love in a unhealthy way. Yeah, it's okay to risk falling in love. It's okay to, you're going to have to do that anyway. It's all kind of a nervous thing when you're wanting to give your heart and your mind and your soul to somebody. That's nerve-wracking for everybody, but certainly don't risk it if the relationship is already looking unhealthy. That's just dangerous.
Right. And then also too, this message is great for people who use dating sites.
Yeah.
Dating
Mm-hmm.
sites, because more than likely what happens is that these people, I know people who use dating websites, and they are long distance. The
Yeah.
people that they're talking to, whether that's 30 minutes away, an hour away, a whole state away, or halfway across the country.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about dating websites and long distance relationships is that if you all are on these dating websites and you all are talking to each other, more than likely you all are also have access to other people on those
Mm-hmm.
dating websites. So you all have to compete for the time and your pretty much the time to have a conversation with each other. And don't be naive. If someone is on a dating website and you met them through that dating website, don't be naive and to think that you're not the only person that they're talking to, that you are the only person that they're talking to. Because 9 times out of 10, then you're not.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to compete in those relationships for time, and also to see this person in order, and time and attention of this person.
Yeah.
And that it will show. Trust me, it will show. Try to do these things with somebody that you met on a dating website, and
not interested for real.
right, and see how much of an interest and how much time you can consume with this person and how available they are.
Yeah.
Pay attention to that, because if they're not always available when you call them or text them, then more than likely they are talking to someone else. That's just the bottom line. That's the realistic situation that's going on. Even college kids, if you all are going through situations like this and you have a high school sweetheart at home or whatever the case may be, the high school sweetheart may not always have access to you. So you all need to understand whether or not you all need to come to an understanding if you are really going to be committed in that type of relationship. More than likely those relationships don't work. So how are you all going to maintain those type of long distance relationships? Normally those don't work for the young people. They don't. It's a lot of challenges. That is the reason why I'm not 100% sold on long distance relationships. To me, it is more work than a marriage, an actual marriage with somebody that you wake up every day with, of course. Some people, say that marriage is work, but I think that a long distance relationship is more than likely 10 times harder in order to maintain. But by all means, if you all are focused on that goal of marriage and you all are focused on being together, then it can be done. It really can be done.
Yeah, it definitely can if you just have that wanting that effort and actually having the same visions. Now, of course, how fast do you have this conversation? What should a long distance relationship, the timeline, how should that look progression wise? We've gone through the simple timeline of a regular dating relationship, right? So 1 to 3 months, that's usually the time where you have plenty of conversations about whether or not this is something you guys are interested in and whether or not you guys are looking to take this single relationship into moving into something like and putting you guys together. So 1 to 3 months probably should apply for a long distance relationship. And honestly, I would say it needs to progress faster. To be honest, I think you need to have a lot of those conversations of whether or not this is something you guys are going to look to do long term. What are you guys doing? If you guys are going to move in together, what are your marriage visions? What is all of this that you're wanting out of life? Have those conversations at least within 1 to 2 months, 3 months max. I honestly say 3 months for the person relationship, because during that time you're building connection, you're in your honeymoon phase, you're probably spending every day together, so that is the different dynamic than if you're in a long distance relationship. If you're in a long distance relationship, all you're doing is talking. So there really should be no excuse to why you have not had these conversations early. What else do you have to talk about? You're literally going to run out of conversation topics at some point. So really make sure to direct that focus onto you guys and where you're going and how you're moving and if this is worth your time. Do not be stuck in a stagnant relationship, long distance or not. Don't waste time. It's time's something you just can't get back. And especially when it comes to wanting to have a family, wanting to share your life together, wanting to start saving for retirement. It's never too early to start doing these things. So the earlier you can actually figure out what you're doing, coming on to common ground, the earlier you can start moving towards actually establishing and having your goals come to fruition.
Oh, well said, honey.
Yeah.
You can also talk about scenarios. Like my wife was saying, don't waste time talking about
trivial
stuff, things. Talk about scenarios. What if this happened? Will you be there for me? What if I fell ill in this long distance relationship? Will you still want to talk to me? What if you just talk about the what ifs, because what that does is it helps you to vet. It helps you to vet this person and see how serious they are about a relationship with you for the long term. You need to be able to create trust and loyalty in this relationship. So scenarios are a great way to try to meter or gauge how well this person really is compatible with you,
Yeah.
or also to understand um, what to expect in a relationship with this person.
Yeah.
Pay attention to how well they give you an answer.
Hmm.
um if they're not taking the question seriously, then they may not be the one that you may want to actually have the relationship with.
Yeah.
If they're having a hard time to struggle to answer these questions, they may not even really be trying to think about being in the relationship with you.
Yeah.
So just be mindful and be pay attention to the way that they answer these questions,
Hmm.
because it will give you a gauge. It will let you know what how well, or whether this person really is serious about being in this long-term relationship with you.
Yeah. Another great thing that popped in my head that you will know, hey, yeah, this person is serious and, we're right on track is if you guys are creating rituals together. Are you doing things on a daily basis that constantly say, hey, it's providing consistency, it's providing security, it's giving you a safe space within your mind that like, hey, I can trust that we're going to do this together. We're going to progress through life. It's things that we are setting up in stone. So maybe this includes, hey, setting up your calendar and having a shared calendar with each other where you say, hey, we're going to call each other. I take my lunch at this time. You take your lunch at this time. We're going to call each other and check in with each other. Or you can even share your calendar to the point where your spouse knows, hey, my spouse is in a meeting at this time. I see it on their calendar. That's probably why they're not hitting me back. That would ease a lot of the anxiety when it comes to a long distance relationship, because that transparency is going to really foster open communication, and it's really going to help everything just flow to where you guys can really create a safe space for each other.
Yep, that's a good one, honey. Because that transparency is a high level sign of maturity.
Hmm.
If you're thinking that far into trying to be transparent
Hmm.
with your long distance spouse or boyfriend, girlfriend, then you're heading down the right path,
Hmm.
because that transparency will help, that it will give relief to anxieties and help with the loneliness, or the the desperate, the desperate feelings of not being together.
Yeah, or jealousy,
Right.
like not knowing, like, hey,
Envy, things
what's
like
this
that.
person going? And even still, on the brighter side of it, it helps you be able to plan those little gifts. So, how we were talking about, hey, surprising your long distance spouse was like some type of gift or something like that. Or if like, hey, they have lunch at this time and maybe they tell you, like, oh, they're so hungry, but they don't know what they want to eat. And you Uber eat something over to them because you know where they're at or wherever the location is. Little things like that really help, foster a good intimacy that you guys will have. So definitely try that out. A shared calendar, again, it goes right to that shared spaces that we were talking about. That will really help, especially long distance, creating those spaces, even if they're not physical, they're in a way shared spaces for you guys to have. So yeah, definitely try that out. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we kind of have left off from this. No, I don't know.
No. But I do have one thing,
Oh
and it's
yeah.
it's pretty much like a red flag to be mindful of when you are dating long distance relationships, pretty much any relationship really. But if you're in a relationship, and this happens to a lot of guys who are on dating websites, if you are on a dating website and you're asking, and the person that you're talking to or having conversations with is always complaining of finances and bills, and oh, my phone is about to get cut off if
Yeah.
I can't come up with the $500 that I need in order to pay my rent and my phone bill, and this is happening on a periodic basis, that may be a good sign that you may not need to be talking to this person, and this person may be only talking to you because of money.
Mhm.
This is a serious thing. It happens to a lot of guys,
And women
and
too, believe it or
yeah,
not.
and women, and a lot of older women too,
Mm-hmm.
dealing with internet, dealing with the internet emails, especially if you have someone you email on a long distance relationship type thing. I've heard women losing thousands of dollars trying to be with this man who's in London or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And for guys, I've had, I know people who've given money up to women who are asking for it on dating websites.
Yeah.
who's they've been, talking to for months and months. Come to find out that, these people are not really interested in you. They are scammers. There are a lot of scammers out there. So you want to make sure that you protect yourself against scammers.
Mm-hmm.
I would say don't give anyone money that you have not met.
Mm-hmm. A few times.
Yep, a couple of times.
Yeah.
If you don't know these people are actually real, don't give them any money at all.
Yeah.
At all. And if you do meet this person, meet them in a common place like some restaurant or what have you, because people, you need to protect yourselves, especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
When there are a lot of creeps out there and people scamming all over the place. So just be mindful of that as well. Don't be too gullible and giving up all of your information and money in hopes to one day marry someone.
Yeah. But by all means, kind of to head back to the brighter side of things, if you are talking about finances with your long distance spouse, make sure that it's in a way where you're both trying to say, hey, this is what I have, this is what you have. Let's figure out how we're going to come together and create something from this, whether it's moving into a new place and you guys figuring out, how much you guys can afford or where you guys can live. Definitely have that finances talk if it's something you're looking to progress. Like any relationship, you're going to have to talk about finances. But yeah, certainly men or women, if the man or woman comes right off and is asking you for money right off back, or not really interested in having a dialogue, a conversation about, money, financial manners in a healthy way, then yeah, certainly don't continue to have that relationship and really reevaluate if this is somebody for you, for sure.
Right. Yeah, because finances are important. You don't want to get with
Mhm.
somebody and they're just in this horrible amount of debt
Yeah.
that you get in this marriage, and then now you're in some ways are responsible for that debt if you all are married.
Yeah.
Because that
Mhm.
somebody's got to pay for it.
Yeah.
And if your spouse is just making money, more than likely that money's going towards the debt,
Mhm.
their debts.
Yeah.
So you really do want to make sure that you all are compatible in the financial market.
And women,
area.
I definitely suggest being able to see where this man is living at and what his home space looks like and whether or not he's providing for himself. Because if he's not providing for himself in a good way, if he's asking you for money, big old red flag, because that's not a provider. But certainly if he has not set himself up to be in a good space while you're long distance and he's still like kind of looking for you to, I guess, come in and fix all that with him or whatever the case may be, that's kind of, that's a red flag too. So certainly just see where that man or woman is at financially in their head, and if they're even doing the things for themselves that they need to be doing as an adult in general before you can decide, this is somebody worth getting into a long distance relationship with.
Right. Yep. Because finances are, like I said before, are very important.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see where you all are with that. Get a credit score report.
Yeah.
Especially if you all are planning on moving in together.
Yeah.
You need to make sure that you all know each other's credit scores before you all move in.
Yeah. And this may sound intimidating because as much as we're saying, do this with regular relationships, I think long distance relationships need to move a little faster with stuff like this because you're looking to overcome a lot of the challenges. And one of them is not being in a close proximity to each other. So the only way that you can overcome this is by having that dialogue, that conversation as early as possible about what that will look like for you all. So if you can do all those things as best as possible, as early as possible, then you've set your relationship up to progress faster in a healthier manner, for sure.
Right. Because if this person is head over heels for you, and you sense that both of you all are prepared for the next step, then nothing is going to hold you back from actually moving in together and taking the next step.
Yep.
Credit report is not going to hold you back.
Nope. None of this stuff that we have gone over is, and
shouldn't.
Certainly some things that you definitely make sure to do. So run this back if you're in a long distance relationship. Ask these questions. Yep.
Share this video with people who need to see it, especially those who are in long distance relationships.
Yeah. Thank you, Instagram followers, for tuning in. YouTube followers in and out. Thank you.
Right. And if you all anytime during our videos, if you all have any comments, questions, please chime in you can add it in the comment section, or either go to my wifeconomics.com website / submit a question, and then you can submit questions there as well, even anonymous questions as well. So if you have any anonymous questions or themes that you would like us to talk about, please share them with us. And until next time, you all have a good night. Peace.